So now we are on record. Hi Akshay, good afternoon.
Hey, hi, good afternoon. Sorry, my laptop was not here.
No worries, no worries. So last class I think we were discussing about functions. Okay, and one small section was left out in functions, which I told you that I'll be doing it in today's class. We'll understand that small section and then we will proceed to object oriented programming. But one thing you have to be very clear, in order to understand object oriented programming, you should have no doubts or ambiguities in functions. Okay, because if you have got any doubts or ambiguities, we'll clear it now itself. And later on, with a clear mind, we have to understand OOPS concept in Python. And to begin with, and to tell you very clearly, Python starts from OOPS. When you become software engineers, most of the time you will be actually following this OOPS paradigm only. OOPS paradigm, that is OOPS software paradigm. Okay, now today I am going to teach you what is a return statement. Return statement in function. I didn't tell you this in the last class because of the time constraint. So now I think we will take a small example of addition of two numbers only. So we know how to add two numbers in function. So we said define add, we saw this, and we gave two parameters a and b. We added a plus b and we printed the value of c, and we call the function by supplying the arguments. That is how we wrote a simple function in Python to add two numbers. So we'll execute this code. Fine, we are getting the output as 30. Now there is another way of doing this. So I'll show you an alternate way now. I can call this, see this portion add 10 comma 20 is called a function call. We know that it is called a function call. So what is a function call? Function call is a Python statement which allows you to call a function. When you are calling a function, you have to be clear that whether you have to supply a argument or not have to supply a argument. Now you know that add function has got two parameters. So you know that this particular function called add accepts two arguments from you. If you don't supply those two arguments, you are going to get an error. We saw that in the last class. What we can do is, we can eliminate this print c here. Observe this. I can eliminate this print c here and I can say return c. I am just changing a small syntax here. I am eliminating that print c and I am putting return c, and what I am doing is I am using the print statement outside the function. So I am telling print and I am going to give the added value is, I am going to close that string and I am going to close the bracket. Now this will also give me the same output as we got in the previous example. So it's going to give me the added value is 30. Now just understand what is happening here. So this portion is calling the function, that's all. So you are calling the function within the print function. Okay, so print is actually a function, we know that. This print function has got one more function inside it, and that function is add 10 comma 20. So this 10 comma 20 add 10 comma 20 will actually call this add a comma b. Now you know that the value of 10 will be assigned to a, the value 20 will be assigned to b. When I say c is equal to a plus b, 10 plus 20 will be added, c becomes 30. I am telling return c, that means return the value of c. Where will the value of c will be returned? The c will be returned to the function. So it is as good as saying, logically it is as good as saying print the value, the added value is c, because you are getting the output from the function. But How did you get C? Because you are actually calling this function, which is add 10 comma 20. Now, what is the return statement in function? The return statement in function is used to return the value. Where will it return the value? To the place where the function was called. Where is the function called? The function was called from here. So, naturally C value will be returned there. So, when the C value returns there, so logically speaking, this particular statement becomes the added value is comma C, because you are returning the value of C. So, this is how you put an return statement in functions using Python. Any doubts here?
Balu, I have one doubt.
Tell me.
So like you said, return C, but in the next statement you wrote print the added values, comma, add 10 and 20, right?
Correct.
So, like you said, it is return C and the added value is one in the statement. So, I really can get the
Okay.
return.
I will tell you. See, this portion is calling the function. Okay. See, if you want to execute the function, what is that you are supposed to do? Okay, you are going to call the function, correct?
Yes.
So, when the function is called, the function has to return you something.
Yes.
So, now when I say add 10 comma 20, the control, what happens? The control comes here, it will come here. When the control comes here, you know the process happening. So, what happens? A and B gets assigned to 10 and 20, C gets the value 30. So, this function is again returning some value back to the place where the function was called. So, where the function was called? The function was called from here. So, this function is getting the value back from the function. So, that is C. So, that C will be used by the print statement and it is going to print the value of C. Either you can do it this way, or as I told you in the earlier example, you can just print it in the function itself. You can print the value of C, okay, and then you can simply go ahead and call add 10 comma 20. This also is correct. But last class I told you there is a concept called cohesion.
Yes.
What is cohesion? You have to ensure that you minimize the functionality of a function as much as possible. In this functionality also you are trying to add and you are trying to print. So, you are trying to put two functionalities here. So, I am seeing that I can remove this print functionality. Let me remove this print functionality and I will just use this function to add numbers, that is all, and let me put the print functionality outside the function. So, I am putting the print functionality outside the function. This is what I am trying to do. So, when I want to put the print functionality outside the function, I need to get the value of C. So, that is the reason I am making use of this return C statement. So, now you run this, you are getting the sum is 30. Understood? Any doubt here?
No. So, either way we are getting the same output.
Yes.
Just that we are compressing it.
Exactly. So, this is one of the, this also is one of the way of actually writing a function in Python. And always remember, a function can only return one value. It cannot return more than one value. It can only return one value. So, Venkat and Anvesh, concept clear? What is a return statement in Python?
Yes, Balu.
Okay.
Yes, Balu.
So, knowing this much, now what we will do is, we will directly go to what is object oriented programming. Okay. So, I will go very slowly. First, you need to understand what is the meaning of object oriented programming. So, we are starting a new section now, and this is a very important section as far as Python programming is concerned. So, have you ever heard of this word object oriented programming? Many chance people call it as OOPS. Have you heard of it any time before? Object orientation? No.
No.
Okay. So let me go to let us remove this IT concepts from mind. Okay. Let us not worry about what is object, what is oriented, what is programming. Let us get into basics straight. Okay. Let us think something about English. Now, in English, there are two common things which you have heard. One is called a noun, and second one is called as a verb. Okay, they are very closely related to object oriented programming. I will connect it and show it to you now. So you know what is a noun. How do you define a noun? What is a noun in English? What's a noun?
Name.
Yes. Name, place, and a thing. Am I right? Noun is a name, place, and a thing. And what is a verb?
Action.
Very good. Verb is an action. Now the whole object oriented programming is based on this concept only. Noun and verbs. That's all. Tomorrow when you become software engineers and when you start working on the real life projects, don't think that you are going to start with programming right away. The first thing you are going to do is problem analysis. In the problem analysis, you are going to first identify what are the nouns and what are the verbs in my problem, and then you are going to actually construct objects from those nouns and verbs. Okay. Now there are two different types of nouns. Have you heard of that by any chance? There are two types of noun in English. One is called a proper noun, and the second one is called as a common noun. There are two types of nouns. One is called a proper noun and the second one is called as a common noun. So what is a proper noun? Proper noun is a specific noun, and what is a common noun? Common noun is a generic noun. So let us take one example. So let's take that I have a common noun called, say, employee. I have a common noun called employee. But what are proper nouns? Now proper nouns can be Venkat, okay, it can be Akshay, and it can be Anvesh. Now these are common nouns. These are proper nouns, sorry. So proper nouns are very specific, whereas common noun is very generic. So when I say employee, I am not telling which employee he is. So when I say proper noun as Venkat, Akshay and Anvesh, we come to know that they are employees. See, that is the basic difference between a proper noun and a common noun. Now in object oriented programming, what happens, we will still connect it further. All these common nouns will become classes, and all these proper nouns will become objects. That's all. So all proper nouns will become objects and all common nouns will become classes. And we are not talking about verbs so far. Now we shall also talk about verbs and how verbs are related to an object. Okay, now till here, do you have any problem? Did you understand what is the difference between a proper noun and a common noun? So as of this point of time, understand that all the common nouns will translate into classes and all the proper nouns will translate itself into objects. But still I have not defined you what are classes and what are objects. I am just giving you an input at this point of time. But at this point of time, are you clear about what is a common noun and a proper noun? No confusion here?
No confusion.
Okay, good. Now we will take some objects as an example. See, when you look at, when you start looking at your own room, wherever you are sitting, you find lot of objects there, correct? You can identify so many objects. You have your own laptop, that's an object. You may have a mouse, that's an object. You may have a TV, that's an object. So always understand, any object you spot will have two things in common. The first one is called as a property. Okay, this property is also called as attribute. Either you can call it as property or you can call it as attribute. And the second thing you can associate with that project, with that object, is called as functions. We call it as functions. Now let us take some examples. Say that you have spotted an object called mouse. So mouse is an object. So now I just gave you the definition that every object will have property, every object will have functions. So what are the properties or what are the attributes of mouse? So very easily you can give me this. So property of mouse is a mouse will have a color. That is one of the property of a mouse. The mouse will have weight. Every mouse will have a weight property. Every mouse will have a brand property, that is it belongs to which brand. So like this you can identify number of properties for this particular mouse. Similarly, the mouse will also have functionalities. Functionalities are nothing but what functions a mouse can perform. So one of the functionalities of a mouse, I write it called a single click. Okay, a mouse has a functionality called single click. Okay, now single click, it's a functionality, no? So you know what is functionalities in Python. So whenever I talk of functionalities, it is nothing but functions. So I represent it like this. So single click is one functionality. Then probably you may have a double click. Double click is another functionality. Okay, then you may have drag. Drag is one functionality. Then you may have scroll. Scroll is another functionality. Like this, you can have n number of functionalities for that particular mouse. So now what did you do? You identified an object called mouse. For that mouse object, you identified that there are certain properties and there are certain functionalities, which is very important. Now how do we represent this? Is very important in a diagrammatical format. I will show you this, because this comes to you handy when you are actually writing a program. So far is this concept clear? What is an object and how does an object has got properties and functionalities? Do you have any doubts here?
No.
No.
No question.
Akshay, clear?
Yeah, clear, Balu.
Very good. So now what we will do is, I'll just open the Jamboard now. I hope you're seeing my whiteboard.
Yes, Balu.
Yes,
Yeah,
Akshay.
we can see, but you have not given us view access.
It's coming, it's coming, it's coming. I think now we will be able to access. Venkatesh accessed it. Anvesh, you could access it? No?
It's asking me to request for access. Let me try again.
Okay, wait. I have sent you the access permission.
Yeah.
Got it? Okay, fine.
Yeah, got it.
Good.
Thanks.
So now we will take this object called as mouse. Okay, now this is my object. Now how do you represent this object in terms of design, software design? Okay, so I represent this as a small box like this. Any box you see like this in software design, we call this as an object, and this object will have two sections. So the first section of the object is nothing but your property section. The first section of your object is a property section, and the second section of your object is a function section. Now we will call it as a method. Function, method, they are all one and the same. So now you had an object called mouse. This object has got properties and methods. So what are the properties of mouse? Okay, I will take some example. So you have a weight property, then probably you may have a length property, you may have a color property, and you may have one more property. Okay, that's enough. So these are the three properties of your mouse. And what are the methods of mouse? I just told you. So I'll call it as SC. SC means single click. I don't have a space, that's why I'm cut shorting it. Okay, then DC. DC stands for double click. Then DG stands for drag. Okay, like this. So these are some of the the functionalities of your mouse. Now there are different types of mouses. Okay, let us take okay, I'll take one mouse. For example, I'll call this mouse as I am using a mouse called Lenovo. So this is my mouse which I am using. Okay, and you may be using one more mouse. Probably you may be using a mouse called HP. Okay, and other person would be using a mouse called Apple. So these are three different mouses I have now. Now all these are mouses only, there is no doubt about it. But the values will change. See, for example, the Lenovo weight would be different, HP weight will be different, Apple weight would be different. The length of a Lenovo mouse would be different, the length of HP mouse would be different, and the length of Apple mouse would be different, and same with color. So now what I am trying to tell you is, every mouse will have a property called weight, length and color, but their values change. Always remember this, every mouse will have a property called weight, length and color, but their values change. Okay, so let's write down those values also. For example, the weight of a Lenovo mouse is around say 20 grams. Okay, and the weight of an HP mouse is around say 15 grams. I'm just giving an example. And Apple is the lightest, so let's say it's around 5 grams. So the weight has changed. Now similarly, the length property for Lenovo is different, the length property of HP is different, and the length property of Apple is different. And same with color property as well. Now what did you understand here? This is one mouse, Lenovo is one mouse, HP is one mouse, and Apple is one mouse. All these mouses will actually sharing these common template. Now don't you think that this becomes like a template? Now this is a template. Now what do you mean by a template? Now this entire thing looks like a template for me. What is a template? So whenever I think of a mouse, I think that mouse will have property, weight, length and color. It will have single click, double click and drag, drop, whatever you call. So I have different mouses, and each mouse will have different values to the properties mentioned in the template. So now you can call this mouse as your common noun. It's a common noun. Okay, and you can call Lenovo as one proper noun, HP as one proper noun, and Apple as one proper noun. So now, as I said you that there is an employee. Okay, when I say employee, employee will have employee number as one property, employee will have designation as one property, employee will have department as one property. Now when I take Venkat, Venkat will also have employee number, will also have designation, and will also have department. If you take Akshay, he will also have employee number, he will also have department number, he will also have designation. So that means these properties, employee number, designation and department, is common to all of them, but the value is changing. So we can say that employee is a common noun, whereas Akshay, Venkat and Anvesh, they are all proper nouns. Similarly here, mouse is a common noun, Lenovo and HP and Apple are called proper nouns. So now what we can do, we can call this common noun as a class. We will call it as a class, and we will call all these proper nouns as objects. We will call them as objects. Now forget the concept of common noun and proper noun. That was basically taught you to make you understand the concept of class and objects. Now, in pure object oriented programming terms, if they ask you what is a class, class is nothing but a template, that's all. What is a class? Class is nothing but a template which will tell you how an object looks like, that's all. So, when you look at a template, you will get a fair idea of how an object is going to look like. And what is an object? An object is an instance of a class. Always remember this definition. So, I am going to write here, an object is an instance of a class. Now, what is the meaning of instance? Instance is nothing but values. For example, for this Lenovo object, the instance values are weight, length and color. Weight is 20 grams, length is say 10 centimeters and color is black. That is one instance. For this particular mouse, the instance values will have weight as 15 grams for HP mouse, the length as say 8 centimeters and color as pink. And for Apple mouse, the instance values would be weight as 5 grams, length as say even more lesser and color as white. So, that means this property weight, length and color are called as instance variables. We call them as instance variables. What do you mean by instance variables? You know what is a variable in Python. A variable basically will hold a value, but the value can vary. So, here weight is a variable, length is a variable, color is a variable, but this weight value depends upon the object. So, if I am using a Lenovo object, the weight value is 20, the same variable weight will hold a value called 15 for a HP object, the same variable called weight will hold a value called 5 for an Apple object. So, that means the value weight, which is an instance variable, depends upon which object you are accessing from. If you are accessing this particular weight from a Lenovo object, the weight would be 20. If you are accessing this weight from an Apple object, the weight would be 5. So, that is why we call these variables weight, length and color. So, we call them as instance variables. So, instance variables. So, this is an important term. So, we call it as instance variables. And what is an instance? An instance is nothing but an object. Now, here now you understood that mouse is a class. Okay, mouse is a class. For this mouse class, you have 3 objects. One is a Lenovo object and a HP object and an Apple object. Now, all these 3 objects will have different properties set. Using Lenovo also you can perform single click, double click, drag. You can with HP object also you can perform single click, double click and drag. And even in Apple object also you can perform single click, double click and drag. I think you lost my Jamboard, I think. So, is the concept clear? Hello? Hello?
Voice
I think I lost.
breaking.
I think I lost my network. I think now is it clear? Just a minute. So, there is small network drop here. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, I connected on a different network. I think Akshay and Anvesh, you are able to see my Jamboard?
Yes,
Yes, Lord.
Okay. So where did you lose me? I think you understood the concept of instance variables, or you want me to explain once again?
Yeah, after instance variables, you spoke about something else that was great.
Okay.
I think you were just trying to summarize whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, just to summarize the topic.
So I'll cover it up now. I'll cover it up with one more example. So whatever that bits and pieces you have missed, I think that should have some clarity now. Okay, let's take a class called employee. I'll have two classes. So at any point of time when you are not able to see my board, please let me know, okay? Because it's an important thing. So let me call this as I call this class as employee, okay, and I'll call this class as mouse. So now there are two classes now. One is an employee class and one is a mouse class. So I told you that a class will have already two sections. We know this. So an employee class will have two sections, a mouse class will have two sections. So we will take some properties of employee class. I gave you this example. We'll take employee number as one property, then say department number as one more property. There could be any number of properties. I am just giving you examples, that's all, okay? And in terms of functionality, every employee is supposed to mark attendance. As soon as he enters into the organization, probably he has to mark a attendance. That is the first functionality. And the second functionality is, let's say that early in the morning he has to send a report to his superior. So I'll call that as send report. That is one more functionality. So like this you can have any number of functionalities for employee. Now for mouse also I will take some properties. We saw that we had weight, we had color, and we had size. So these are the functionalities of mouse. So these are the properties of mouse, and the functionalities would be say single click, then double click and drag. So these are the methods of mouse. Okay, there you go. So now we can call employee as one class and mouse as another class. Now let's create objects to this class employee. So I'll create an object called, say for example, I'll create a first object called Venkat. Now for this object there will be a separate employee number and there will be a separate department. So let's say that, so the employee number value for this is say 1001, that is the employee number, and the department number would be BA, that is business analysis. Fine. So what does it mean? Employee number for Venkat is 1001 and department is business analysis, and Venkat has to mark attendance. Venkat has to actually perform this send report. So how do I say that? If I want to show it here, so what I will do is I will say something like this. I will say Venkat dot MA. So what is the meaning of Venkat dot MA? That means using the object called Venkat, I am accessing this method called mark attendance. This means that attendance is being marked by Venkat. Similarly here I can have one more employee now. Okay, now we'll take one more employee. Now he will also have employee number. So I'll call that employee number as 1002, and his designation would be something like TL. Okay, he's a team lead. Now using this object also I can mark attendance, I can send status report. So now how do I do that? I say Anvesh dot MA. Okay, so that means there is only one method called mark attendance. When I use that mark attendance method from the Venkat object, it will mark attendance for Venkat. When I call this method from an Anvesh object, it will actually mark attendance for Anvesh. So what you have to understand from here is, the method is only one, but it is actually being called by multiple number of objects. So there could be 100 employees in your organization, all 100 employees has to mark attendance. So you cannot expect 100 methods to be written. I write only one method, but I call that method 100 times, by calling them from different objects or different employees. Similarly here there is only one variable called EMP number and one variable called department. If there are 100 employees, for all the 100 employees the employee number would be different and the department would be different. Now I want to print the employee number of Venkat. So how do I print it? Very simple. So what I will do, I will give a print statement like this. So I will say print. I will use the object. What is the object? I will say Venkat dot. So dot is an period operator. Then I will say EMP number. So dot EMP number. So when I say print Venkat dot EMP number, it is going to print me 1001. But if I say, sorry for the spelling there, when I say print Anvesh dot EMP number, it is going to print 1002. So that means this employee number is only one variable, but it is holding two values. Remember that it is holding 101 and 1002. But which one it is? If I simply say print EMP number, we cannot actually determine from which EMP number it has to give. So we have to actually associate with an object. So that is why I associate object name dot property name. So object name is Venkat and what is the property name? EMP number. Object name dot property name. Object name dot property name means Venkat dot department number, department name, whatever you call. So this is how you basically access the value of an instance variable. Now coming to mouse here, mouse also will have different objects. Okay. Now I have an object called Lenovo, we have seen this before, and I may also have an object called HP. Okay, done. So using an HP object, you can access the members of weight, color and size, and using the Lenovo object, you can initialize and access the members of weight, color and size. So using Lenovo object also you can have this scroll, drag, whatever you call, single click, double click, etc. Now what is important here is these two classes are totally different. Okay, they are not at all connected with each other. Always remember this. So what does this mean? This class is separate, this class is separate. So at any given point of time, you cannot use the object of an employee class to actually access the method of a mouse class. That is not at all possible. I cannot say Venkat dot single click. It is irrelevant. And similarly, I cannot say Lenovo dot mark attendance. That is also not possible. So that means every class is independent on its own, and every class will have its own set of objects. Objects of one class cannot have an access to the methods of another class. Okay, now we are coming to core object oriented programming. First we understood what is a class. A class is nothing but a template. This concept is clear. Next we understood what is an object. An object is an instance of a class. I told you what is the meaning of an instance. Now we are coming to a concept called encapsulation. Remember this word? It's called encapsulation. So what is the meaning of this word encapsulation? Encapsulation means only this one. What is the meaning of this word encapsulation? Encapsulation basically means creating a class and putting the common properties and common methods inside a class is called as encapsulation. Now why did this word come into picture? So you have a capsule, okay. So the capsule will have two sections. So inside the capsule you will have medicines here. Okay, now we can see that the medicine is actually bound within a capsule. So capsule is nothing but a frame which actually binds that particular medicine inside it. Similarly here a class is a frame which actually binds properties and methods inside it. See, that is why we call it as encapsulation. Okay, now three concepts you have learnt now. The first concept is called as a class. Okay, the second concept is called as an object. Third concept is called as encapsulation.
So, Balu, encapsulation is nothing but a template, right, again?
Yes, encapsulation is nothing but a template. A template in terms of English, but in terms of object oriented programming, it is called a class.
Okay.
Class,
And, Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, ask me, ask me.
I was just trying to understand, just for my understanding, so
Huh.
basics, right? So, if object is instance, then the properties of the object is instance variable, right?
Yes, 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 yes.
And every time when we are writing, we'll be like instance dot instance variable.
Object dot instance. Object dot instance
Since
variable.
we said object is instance, I just
No problem, no problem. When you are
Yeah.
when you are putting, you say object dot instance variable.
cool.
Venkat, clear about what is encapsulation? Hello?
Yes, Balu. I
Okay.
was on mute, sorry.
No problem, no problem.
Can you define encapsulation again? I just want to make it.
Encapsulation is nothing but binding properties and methods together within a class. That's all. Binding the properties. Have you bound it here? Have you not bound the properties here? Employee number and department were properties, no? Mark attend.
Sorry.
Okay. So employee number and department were properties, mark attendance and send report were functionalities. You are binding together within a small capsule or a template, whatever you call. This binding is called as encapsulation. That's all.
So now, Balu, so do we have to identify these classes with or objects and properties and methods every time, or how does this work?
Yes. Now you have hit the nail on the head. Now I'll come to that. This is what you're supposed to do in a real life software environment.
Alright.
Okay, I'll come to that now. Okay.
Sure.
So now, shall I move forward? Are you done with it, Venkat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very much.
Now, one more interesting thing you must have observed here is that we have a concept called reusability. We have a concept called reusability. See now, for example, you see this mark attendance and send report. This function was there, and this function is used by Venkat object, Anvesh object, and there could be 100 employees in your organization. All the 100 employees will make use of this function, correct? So this is the concept of reusability. So that means object oriented programming will allow you to reuse the function multiple number of times. Very important. So this reusability is actually called, in object oriented programming, we actually call it as polymorphism. Okay, we'll talk about it later. So but at this point of time, we call this reusability as polymorphism. We call it as polymorphism.
And this applies only to the actions, right?
It will apply only to the actions. So let me give you an example. See, okay, you all use Gmail, right? See, in Gmail, you have an option called compose mail, correct? Even if I open my mailbox, I will also get compose mail. If you open your mailbox, you also get compose mail. Now, what I give into to whom I am sending is different from what you give into for yourself. What I write in subject is different from what you write in subject. What I fill within the body is different from what you fill within the body. Now, you cannot expect Google to actually give separate compose methods to all of us. It will create only one compose method and it will give to all of us. But that compose method will suit us depending upon whom we are actually trying to send. So we are all objects. So using, if I am having a Gmail account, my Gmail account is nothing but sptechbang@gmail.com. So internally, how it is happening? sptechbang.compose method. It will automatically call that particular compose method, and when you hit the send button, it will execute it. So that means that compose method data what I give is totally different from what you give inside. So is this not the concept of reusability?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is why object oriented programming is so popular today, and it will help us to basically boil down our entire solution into real life objects, identification of objects and identification of classes, and then how we are going to make use of objects and classes in our real time application is what we are going to do. Now you are asking about how do we analyze this. So I will take one case study only now, and using that case study we will analyze how to identify classes and objects in real life problems. Okay, and then after you understood that, then only we will actually go ahead with how do we actually write a class inside your Python program. So till here is it clear? No doubt. Shall we go ahead now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Okay, let's take a simple case study which is easy to understand. So I'll take a case study called, college automation system. You know what is a college automation system? I want to basically automate my entire college. Now when you want to do this, if you are a business analyst, I think Venkat was a business analyst. Am I sure, Venkat?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let me ask you some questions. When you are understanding the requirements from the customer, the first thing you are supposed to do is you enter into the college for understanding the requirements. So you are supposed to gather the requirements from the customer. So the first and the foremost thing you are going to do is you are going to identify noun and identify verb. This is the first action you are going to do. So now I think it makes sense why you have to identify nouns and why you have to identify verbs. So let's take some vague examples. You get into the department, you see a faculty there and you ask him, who are you? He says, I am the faculty. So immediately something strikes into your mind. He is a noun. Okay. Now how do I represent this noun diagrammatically? Okay, I do it something, actually it's outside the scope of your subject, but anyway I'll teach you this. I represent it like this. Hope I am drawing this correct. Now he is called as a noun, so we call him as an actor. So have you done this diagrams before, Venkat?
No, we've never used visualization.
Okay, I'll teach you how to do it now. Okay, he is called as an actor. Now, what is the name of the actor? So the name of the actor, you call him as faculty, generic actor, no? See, because you always now identify what nouns, you identify only common nouns, that's all. Okay. Now you ask this faculty what and all you do on a day-to-day basis. You are gathering requirements. What are you trying to do? You are actually gathering the requirements. Okay, he will say, my first responsibility early in the morning is I will handle the class. Okay, so immediately you understood. Handling a class is a function, it's a verb. Okay, then what you did? You took one line, you drew like this, you drew a ellipse like this. Inside that ellipse, you wrote handling class. So his first functionality is complete. Okay, then you ask him what else you do. He says, I will also mark attendance. Okay, good. You documented even that also. So you are going to mark attendance. So I'll call it as mark attendance. I'll keep it short. So like this, you identified that an actor called faculty is there, and that faculty actor has got two verbs associated with him, two functionalities associated with him. One is called handling class and second one is called marking attendance. For time constraints, let us take only two functionalities, but he would have n number of other functionalities also. Setting question paper, evaluating answer scripts, he would be a committee member somewhere, he would have additional responsibilities. So many would be there. Let's not get into all those things. Now immediately you leave the faculty and go to the next room, you will find another person there. You will ask him, who are you? He says, I am the HOD. Oh, then you say, I have identified another actor called HOD. Immediately you draw him here. You make one more actor called HOD, or you call him as dean, whatever you call. Okay, now I'll call him as head of the department. He is also an actor. Okay, we'll call him as HOD. So head of the department. Now you ask him what you do. he says, I also handle class, I also mark attendance, then somewhere it will strike in your mind. See, there are two functionalities which are very common, handling class and marking attendance. Already faculty does that, and HOD is saying that he is also handling class, he is also marking attendance. Okay, you will keep that in mind. Then you will ask, apart from that, what else you do? He says, I am responsible for creating a timetable and I am responsible for collecting the student feedback. Now something strikes. Now you say that yes, these two are different functionalities which were not gathered from actor called faculty. So immediately you write it down. So what you basically do, okay, you took this, the first functionality was say create timetable. So I write it as create timetable, and the second functionality was say getting student feedback. Student feedback. Okay, when you are interpreting, don't take it as Facebook, it's actually feedback. Okay, so these are the two functionalities what you have identified from an actor called HOD. Now you just analyze that yes, there are certain functionalities which are actually common between actor and HOD. And what are those functionalities? Handling class and marking attendance. Now you will come to a conclusion that HOD by default he is an faculty only, but he has additional responsibility. That is the conclusion you come, and what you do, you draw a small arrow like this. So when you draw a small arrow like this, I will tell you what does this arrow actually interprets to. At this point of time, understand that you are drawing a small arrow from actor HOD to actor faculty. Okay. Now what do you do next? You go and talk to the principal of the college. Okay. Now he is also an actor. Okay. Then you ask him what are the functionalities you do. Now principal says, see, sometimes I also handle class. When there are no faculties in charge, I need to handle class. I need to also play the role of an HOD, which means he could be the head of the department of one of the departments, and also he could be actually playing the role of a principal. So that could be a situation in the organization where you are doing business analysis. I am taking it for simplicity. Now what he does apart from this, he says, I am responsible for crediting the salary to all my staff. So he is responsible for salary, and probably he may have another responsible called say university interaction, so UI. So these are the two responsibilities what he has, and these two responsibilities will actually be represented like this for this particular actor called principal. Actor called principal. Okay, now this is the actor. Now we identified that principal also can be a HOD, can also be an actor. So what I do, there is no space here. So what I can do, I can draw an arrow something like this, Okay. So now you can see an actor called faculty is there, an actor called HOD is there, and an actor called principal is there. Now all these actors are nothing but classes. So you have a class called actor, you have a class called HOD, you have a class called principal. In the faculty class, you have methods like handling class, marking attendance. In the HOD class, you have methods called creating timetable, student feedback. And in the salary class, in the principal class, you have a methods called salary and university interaction. Okay, now you have got three separate classes. So I can write three separate classes like this. This is one class, this is the second class, and this is the third class. Now this will be represented like this. Okay. Now this is my actor class, actor faculty. Okay. This is my actor faculty. Now this is my actor HOD, and finally this is my actor called principal. Okay. Now remember, now let us take the name of a principal. The name of the principal is something like Kumar. So he is an object. The name of the principal is Kumar. Now this Kumar is an object of which class? Principal class. So now you can see that the principal is actually inherited from HOD, and HOD is inherited from actor, which means that Kumar can have access to handling class, Kumar can have access to marking attendance, Kumar can have access to create timetable, Kumar can have access to collecting student feedback, and Kumar also can have access to give salary to employees, and Kumar also have got access to university interaction. So in this case, this handling class was only one functionality. That functionality was reused by multiple actors who are all related to each other. So this concept where we are trying to reuse by segregating actors one below the other, we call this concept as inheritance. Inheritance. So this is called as inheritance. So what is inheritance? Inheritance is a process where one actor will derive the properties from another actor, or one actor will derive the methods from another actor. So in this case, HOD is deriving functionality from faculty, and principal is deriving functionality from HOD, which means logically speaking, this principal is deriving the functionality from HOD as well as faculty. So all the functionalities he will get, because HOD will get these two functionalities automatically because it is being derived, and now there are 4 functionalities for HOD. So these 4 functionalities will be automatically be implemented with principal, and principal has got additional two functionalities. One is salary and university interaction. So like this we formulate a concept called inheritance in object oriented programming. Now we call this as, sometimes in object oriented programming we call this as base, and we call this as derived. We call it as derived. Okay, it is nothing but father and son. Okay, now base means what? Father. Now derived means what? Son. Son is deriving the properties from father, and this case it is actually derived. It is derived. But who is the base for this fellow? The base for this fellow is the HOD. Okay, so that means this HOD is actually a base class or a base actor for principal, and HOD is a derived actor for faculty. So he is having dual responsibilities here. So like this you diagrammatically analyze the whole situation in business analysis. I am actually little deviating from the scope now. Then what you basically do, you take this use case diagram and then convert it into class diagrams, and then you give it to the software development team. Their main responsibility is to convert that class diagrams into Python code, that's all. So they don't have to worry about what is actor, who is faculty, who is HOD. They are not at all bothered. They'll simply see the diagram and they'll start coding. So if you are a software engineer, all you have to do is just fill up the blanks, because you will have a design document with you. The design document tells you what and all classes you have to design, inside that classes what method you have to design. Just you have to follow the design. But somebody would have really put in their hard work in order to do analysis, coming out with a logic, coming out with the inheritance models and all those things. So those things you will not be worried about. So but the concept what we are using is pure object oriented programming concept. So far you understood what is class, we understood what is object, we understood what is encapsulation, we understood what is reusability, we understood security also. Security means what? The object of one class. For example, here the object of one class cannot access the object of another class. That is called as security. See, just like your Facebook page. See, your Facebook page is a dynamic content. No, it is actually object oriented programming only. I am also an object, you are also an object. But the feeds what we get on Facebook is totally different. I get a different feed, you get a different feed, but like buttons everything is the same. Okay, so there is a class called Facebook template class. We are all objects. Okay, but the data is varying. So the background which is actually running in Facebook is pure object oriented programming background only. So like this you can think of hundreds of examples. Booking of a railway ticket in IRCTC. I log in, you log in. We are all objects. Okay, both of us are objects. Then I am using a method called book ticket from source to destination. You are also using a method called book ticket from source to destination. Your source to destination value is different, my source to destination value is different. Doesn't mean that there are two different methods, one for you and one for me. It is one method only. Implementation of that method for me is different, implementation of that method for you is different, because we two are two different objects. So like this, whenever you see any e-commerce portal today, or any shopping cart today, or any dynamic web applications today, the work horse which is actually running behind is the concept of object orientation. So from today onwards, whenever you are seeing something, try to relate this to the object orientation paradigm, like how actually it is working, which concept of object orientation is actually working behind the scenes. And if you can do that, then slowly you are getting into the programming shoes. Okay, so is this concept clear? Any doubts here so far? So it's more of a theoretical session today.
No questions, Paul. In fact, it's really good. Today's session was good.
Okay, Venkat?
Yes, Gaurav, no questions.
No questions.
So I think you have to go through this once, and then you have to revise this. So with this, shall I show you a small program on how to define a class and how to define an object within a class in Python, one small program, and then probably in the next class we can move into the other concepts of object oriented programming. Do you think you can take it today, or shall I put it to the next class?
Just show it as an example, and then I will take it up in the next class.
Okay, no problem. So I'll stop sharing this Jamboard. So let me open this Eclipse now. Okay, so I'll call this program as oops 1. It's already there. Okay, this program is basically to create a class and an object. Okay, now how do you create a class in Python? Very simple. The keyword is class. Start with class and give the name of the class. So let's say that I am giving the name of the class as employee. Employee, EMP. I'll call the name of the class as EMP. Okay, now I told you that a class has got two sections. One is the property section and second one is called as the method section. Now it doesn't mean that it must and should have property section. You can ignore the property section also. Since I am starting a simple program, I'll ignore the property section. I'll put only the method section inside this class. So let me define a small method here. I will define a method called, say, mark attendance. Mark attendance. I told you this is the important method of an employee class. So the moment I put mark attendance, you can see that there's a keyword called self coming there. Okay, we will know what is that self later. Then I'll say print. I'll put some statement here. This method will mark attendance of an employee. Okay, now this is my class. My class is complete. Now if you want to visualize this class pictorially, what I have basically done now is I have created a class. Okay, this is my class and this class is called an EMP class. Inside this EMP class there has to be two sections, but I am not giving anything on the property section. On the function section, what I am doing here is I am having a method and the name of that method is mark attendance. So the name of that method is mark attendance. So for this mark attendance, I have given some implementation. What is the implementation? I am giving print. Now I have to create an object of this particular class. So let's create an object. So I'll create an object called Kumar. So this Kumar is an object of this particular class. So how do I create this in Python? So what I'll do is I'll say Kumar, the name of the object, equals to EMP. That's how I do it. So I say Kumar is equal to EMP. Object name equals to class name, open bracket, close bracket. So if you do this, what happens? An object called Kumar will be created of the class called EMP. Okay, if you want to create one more object, I'll say Ramesh is equal to EMP. So we're creating one more object called Ramesh of the EMP class. So like this you can create any number of objects. Now I told you, you have to, using this Kumar object, what I am supposed to do, I have to call this method. So I had created one more object called Ramesh. So using the Ramesh object, I have to call this method. So how do I do that? I told you I have to make use of the period or a dot operator. So I can say Kumar dot mark attendance, and I will say Ramesh dot mark attendance. So when I run this program now, you can see this method will mark attendance of an employee. So this output is coming from the object Kumar, and the second output is coming from the object Ramesh. So mark attendance was only one method. That method was used by two different objects, one from the Kumar object and one from the Ramesh object. So this portion is there now, from here to here. This portion is called as encapsulation, because within the class you are actually defining the method. Of course, there is no property there, the property is not there, but still method is within the class. It is called as encapsulation. This portion, Kumar is equal to EMP. What are you trying to do here? This portion is actually defining objects. Defining objects are nothing but instances. Defining objects are nothing but instances. Here you are having the concept of encapsulation. Encapsulation. And you can see that mark attendance is called by multiple number of objects. So this mark attendance is basically a concept of reusability. It's a concept of reusability. Why? Because you are calling this mark attendance multiple number of times. So this is a simple program which tells you how to create a class and object in Python. So in the coming sections, there are so many things to learn in object oriented programming, like constructors, polymorphism. I'll show you how to implement single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, multiple inheritance, and hybrid inheritance. So these things will take probably a week or so. So after you learn object oriented programming, then we will see next a few concepts in Python. So is this concept very clear? I think go through this chapter once again. I'll send you the video recording. Try this program. So in the next class, we shall see how to put properties as well, because here we have not put any properties so far. We have only put functionalities. So in the next class, I'll show you how to put properties and functionalities within the class and see how to assign the properties via instance variables and objects.
Sure, Balu. Balu, I just have one question. The same example which you've shown. Let's say there are 100 employees. Do we have to write each and every employee, define every object there as Kumar is equal to employee and Rajesh is equal?
No, you need not. Actually, for that reason only, all the 100 employees would be available either on your Excel sheet or it will be in some other database, no?
Okay, we'll give the call.
We will call them and automatically initialize it.
Cool.
Okay, so the next class, I think Friday we will not have a class. Okay, so we will catch up on Monday, coming Monday.
Okay. Sure.
Okay.
Sure, Balu.
Right then, Venkat, happy Dasara to all of you. Let's catch up next week. Okay.
Sure, Balu. Happy
Sure,
Dasara
Balu.
to
Happy
everyone.
Dasara to you too.
Bye bye.
Yes. Nice.
So I'll send you the record. And was that recording clear yesterday? Did you go through that, Akshay and Anvesh? No.
Yeah, the link which you sent, yeah, it was clear, Balu.
Okay, because earlier link actually it wasn't rendered properly. So I sent you the new link.
Okay.
Okay then. Bye. Good day.
Bye.
Good day.